favorite segment.
And this month it comes as no surprise. This is not like a Bruce Willis was dead the whole time plot twist. We've been talking about it the entire time. Pluto in Aquarius is the worst astrology of the month. And not just Pluto in Aquarius, but Pluto crossing the 0 degree of Aquarius, which is where we had the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn about almost 2.5 years ago now in December of 2020. And that ushered in this whole new epoch of the great conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn happening exclusively in air signs, which we'll touch on a little more in a second. But the reason why...
For the novice, just sorry to cut in, but it's important to just quickly say that the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction every 20 years it's like the heartbeat of culture. It comes in, conjuncts, releases a whole new impetus into the culture, and then 20 years later, boom, boom. So yeah, Pluto's now gonna cross.
Yeah, and so Pluto is doing he's gonna be doing the dubstep remix of what just happened a few years back. And my insight into this comes from my background in media studies, where I noticed a trend of significant moments in mass media and technology taking place while Saturn was in Aquarius. The Nazi Ministry of Propaganda was founded when Saturn was in Aquarius, and that's significant because it was based on Goebbels based his entire propaganda system on the work of an American named Edward Bernays, who was Sigmund Freud's nephew. There's a really great documentary out there if you want to learn more, called Century of the Self. And Bernays was the father of public relations as we know it today. And when we think of public relations today, we think of, like a senator's kid got into a DUI and they gotta come out, the PR agents got to come out and do damage control. But it actually had a way more insidious purpose, in that they were looking at the growing masses of populations, where in feudal times a king maybe only had to manage a population of 1 million people in his fiefdom, in his kingdom. But at the dawn of the 20th century, we started having these, borders started getting more porous, and we started seeing populations reaching the billions. And leaders were questioning, how do we actually control this many people? It's easy to control a small little kingdom, but how do we control this many people? So Bernays started experimenting with the work of his uncle Sigmund Freud into human psychology, and he found that people, how do I phrase this? That people, they like to unite around a common belief. They identify with certain symbols, and they like to unify around that belief. And the more that
comfort in numbers and security in numbers.
Yeah, exactly. And so the first experiment he did was the Torches of Freedom campaign, where he Lucky Strike wanted to break into the female demographic, because women weren't smoking back then. So he decided, well, people love freedom. This is an idea that people will gather around, and if we could get them to associate cigarettes with freedom.
Women,
with women. So he paid off all of these beauty queens to march through the streets of New York City, lighting up for freedom. Who doesn't want to light up for freedom,
Totally.
And so it's that getting the masses unified around a singular idea that was represented by a certain symbol or something,
And just so going back, this is about Saturn being in every
Aquarius.
time
So yeah,
Saturn's in
these were the
Aquarius.
these were the ideas that
Yeah,
influenced Goebbels
right.
in his propaganda campaign for the Nazi Party. And that so in when Saturn was in Aquarius in 1933, the Nazi Ministry of Propaganda was founded. And then 30 years later, in 1963, the JFK funeral was broadcast internationally. And Marshall McLuhan made the observation that this was kind of like the first kumbaya, the first technological, mediated kumbaya, where the entire world was watching this live broadcast. It was the one of the first live broadcasts of any event, and it was the most tuned in across the world. So this was our first international sleepover that was mediated by technology, and then 30 years after that, the public internet that launched. That was when the first consumer computers were able to access the internet. And then obviously 30 years after that, we had the pandemic, and we were all just sort of driven into the internet. It became a necessity. It was no longer a luxury. It became a necessity. And in that time, we saw a lot happen. We saw, the release, the launch of the Metaverse, the launch of ChatGPT, Elon's usurping at Twitter. We saw a lot. There was a lot of activity that went on online, and so now that Pluto is going to be crossing that 0 degree, like I said, it's going to be like it's the dubstep remix. There's going to be something that's going to happen in that sphere, I think, that will
It's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
yeah.
Yeah.
Temple of Doom. Yeah.
What are your guys' intuitive hits on that with the theme of the way Saturn, when it moves through Aquarius, lays out a certain matrix, and then here comes Pluto touching that hot spot from a couple years ago. I think it was right on the solstice
It was.
when that conjunction happened with Jupiter and Saturn. So here comes Pluto now this month to that 0 degree of that conjunction into the sign. Rachel?
Oh, I feel like there's going to be a lot of desire for like vengeance against what people perceive to have been, crimes against humanity. I feel like that's the dark side of it. There's going to be, and some of it is justified and righteous anger, and some of it will be, insanity. I think that there's going to be a very painful desire for vengeance. I feel like, one thing that the Pluto in Capricorn transit really did was it gave us like an X-ray, or I guess it gave most people an X-ray into what the nature of these institutions of power are really like, what they're about, what drives them, and I feel like more people than I could have ever imagined now are extremely cynical about their leaders, extremely cynical about corporations, very hyper aware that greed runs the world, and hyper aware of how toxic and sick it really is at the top. And so in Aquarius, there will be some X-ray into how mass media operates on us psychologically. So this back door that was discovered by Bernays back in the early 20th century, who Bernays was actually Sigmund Freud's nephew, by the way. So he used his uncle's amazing knowledge and vast research into human psychology to then actually manipulate people from from the back, from behind, through invisible means. He used subliminal messaging to manipulate people and change their behavior and get them to change their beliefs. This has been happening. There's been these psychological operations on the masses ever since. You know, it's been a nonstop social experiment through mass media, through propaganda, through commercials, for various reasons. I mean, they want to get you to buy stuff. They want you to hate yourself. They want you to vote for this person. They want you to support that war, whatever. It goes on and on and on. There's many reasons why, many types of messaging. But I feel like when Pluto enters Aquarius, there's going to be some, you know, like everything in nature evolves. Roses perhaps did not used to have thorns, but over the millennia, they developed thorns to protect themselves so that they could flourish into these most beautiful blooms. Other examples are numerous. We can watch pressure, evolutionary pressure, produce mutations that are actually designed to protect the life form and give it more of a chance to thrive, even in harsh conditions, or if conditions change rapidly. So I feel like, and I've always felt like, being pulled around by Freudian strings is not something that the masses are going to be enduring forever. I feel like what's actually evolving right now is the psychological or psychic capacity of individuals. So we have to develop psychic protection that perhaps we did not have before, because there was really no means for our psyches to be invaded and manipulated the way that has been possible since the dawn of the 20th century through mass media. So I see Pluto in Aquarius at 0 degrees, opening the portal, opening the door for some really tremendous, natural, organic, psychic self-protection against propaganda, so that we can preserve our individual thoughts, opinions, feelings, our humanity, our dignity, etc., and not be so poisoned and manipulated and invaded by, you know, PR, essentially.
Yeah.
That's what I
think that's great. I think it goes back to a point I made earlier today about it's a marriage, it's a dance. People, I mean, just looking at the impact of the technological world and how everybody embraced it and wanted it, and the iPhone and all the gizmos and gadgets and Dick Tracy watches. It was like, yes, you know, get me in there. And then suddenly, you know, it's like, it's a labyrinthal nightmare of surveillance, everything that goes with that we know about.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching this great, well, first of all, I've got to share something on the Adam Curtis's Century of the Self, which we should put this in.
Definitely.
Because you can watch that free over on thoughtmaybe.com. Century of the Self. All the Adam Curtis stuff is there, by the way.
Yeah.
But just on Bernays, who was Freud's nephew, I think his biggest coup was, if you remember this, like, I think Betty Crocker was trying to sell cake mixes.
Yeah.
That were instant, and women just didn't want them because, you know, and then Bernays said, no, you've got to have them put an egg in the batter, even though there was like powdered egg in it already.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as that egg went in there, these just shot off the shelf, because the women then felt, well, this is, you know, part of me, my ovaries going into this cake that I'm doing for my husband. And that was a kind of genius he had that was actually quite nefarious.
Yeah.
Woo. But anyway, yeah, I think I had a download watching the Netflix documentary on Pornhub. Was it last night? Anyway, and as more and more was exposed about Pornhub, some of it related to child trafficking and underage shit that's, you know, posted up there. Suddenly this crazy ass billionaire, someone went and just burnt his house to the ground.
Wow.
You know, found out where he lived in Canada. Actually, it was a house being constructed some mega grotesque, McMansion thing. And that night, the whole thing was like just arsons came in, just took it down to the ground. So that's my picture of, the repercussions that are the type of repercussions that I think we're going to see: more chthonic, cathartic, primitive blowback on things related to tech lords, tech geeks, stuff like that.
The rage.
That's
of
my
Aquarius.
Age of Aquarius.
That's
Hence,
what it is.
yeah.
what?
And to
A
that,
rage of
Yeah,
Aquarius.
hence
Yes.
the Rage of Aquarius.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm not advocating violence, my
No,
God,
no.
or eating eggs, but anyway.
Yeah.
but rage is sometimes righteous. Like I said, there is righteous anger in this world, and there's also crazy. There's two types, and we do need righteous anger to heal. That's like the heat that cauterizes a wound and prevents it from continuing to be infected and open. And heat is what cauterizes a wound. So yes, when Pluto crosses into Aquarius, I see a lot of heat rising.
Right.
And some of us need that to heal, and some of us need that to protect ourselves better, to actually acknowledge the dangers that we're living in. Like Andre and I, we're Pluto and Scorpio kids, and we were just put on the internet when we were children, unsupervised, an endless scroll of filth and insanity and neurosis without any guardians looking out for us, because the PR was computers make you smart and you're going to need to know how to use this, and all smart people know how to use them. And I'm not saying that I'm pro censorship or anything. That's not what I mean. But like, to be a child just put into these unconscious waters without any protection at all, or any guidance, or any context even, was so crazy. And it came from just total ignorance and total misunderstanding of what was happening in the world. So no protection, no sense of like, we need to have a gate up here, we need to have thorns, you're in the wilds, you need to have a weapon, like at least a taser, pepper spray, nothing.
I still get tech support booty calls from my mom because she still cannot get over the moment that she saw that I knew how to copy and paste an image into a Word document, and it's in like 1995,
things that people have endured, just by like being floating out there without any sense of protection. So nobody's going to give that to us. We don't want the government or Mark Zuckerberg or any of these people to protect us, because they're insane authoritarian censors. That's not the right way to go. We need to learn how to navigate these things ourselves. We need to
that's the thing. Whenever Pluto's in a sign, it's pulling from its opposite sign.
Yeah.
So Leo, which opposes Aquarius, is suddenly in the dance. And it's just what you're talking about, how your own individual sovereignty and wisdom is maneuvering this crazy ass labyrinth.
Yeah, so I take inspiration from little cacti and also roses. Just grow some thorns.
Yeah.
Grow some things on your psychic, etheric body, as well as your mental health. Grow some protection. Learn how to navigate the toxic situation that we're in. There's no help for it. We can't purify the waters of the internet. We can't purify the collective psyche. It's filthy out there. There's child porn out there. It's horrible. Like, we're really in a difficult situation having to tune in.
There's TikTok influencers.
There's TikTok.
I mean, all it really is, I think, is just an amplification of something that's always there in culture. I mean, when Gutenberg, developed the press, suddenly right after all the Bibles were printed, it was erotica. And when the VHS came along, it was the porn industry that galvanized that. And the same online with streaming, it was the porn industry that got you know, everything up to speed and quicker downloads and stuff like that. So it's really nothing new. It's just bigger and
Yeah.
it's more networked and widespread, because I think human nature, you know, is always, I mean, when I was a kid, of course, you know, I was looking for porn. Not, there wasn't a computer, but it was, you know, some kid knew where it was in a shed down the street, or some father had it in their drawer, you know, and it's like that, you know, kids just like homing device into the porn,
It's
you know,
like
you
the
know,
early days of desert raves where you had to go on like a scavenger hunt to a liquor store out in Barstow, and there's gonna be now you just get the directions emailed to you, you know.
but no wonder there's all these incels and stuff. I think they've just been burned out from, first of all, thinking like, God, that's how I've got to have sex, like with a woman, or like, you
Well,
know,
I mean,
like,
I think that's that's the danger of growing the thorns, is that it's not necessarily going to manifest in it's not going to manifest in the most like high vibe, sacred masculine David data of ways. That it's going to be more of this like, you know, unintegrated reactionary crusader like mentality against it, rather than just like, well, I've got to, this Aquarian style where I need to be responsible for myself. I need to show certain restraint. I've got a long way to go to get down this mountain, and I've got to conserve my water. I have to, there's nobody up here at the top of this mountain that's going to be responsible for me other than myself,
exactly, yeah.
that's how I started seeing pornography the older I got. It wasn't so much this like this puritanical crusade against it. It was more just like, God, this stuff is really just draining my energy, and there's so much time in the day that I need to really start managing what I'm doing with myself, and I think that's more of like a healthy attitude because we, toward the whole thing, toward technology in and of itself. And I really like what you said, that there's nothing new under the sun, essentially. And I remember watching that documentary. It was really big right when the pandemic dropped and we were all driven online, and then we get hit with this Netflix documentary about the dangers of social media. I forget what it was called, but
Yeah, I remember that one.
I remember watching it and just thinking to myself, it just doesn't, all it seems is that it's just accelerated. The algorithm, these sort of these psychological profiles that the algorithm is designing on you to make your the advertising more and more and more personalized. If you remember, if you watch that show Mad Men, it ends with like the computer getting put in the center of the office.
Right.
They no longer needed these creative directors like Don Draper, because they were just going to start, they were just going to start following the algorithm, so it really just seems that they were able to just take what they did and take what was already going on and basically turn it into a, semi-automatic weapon. Which is still dangerous nonetheless. But I think a lot of growing those like healthy thorns, it comes from comes from recognizing, that there is nothing new under the sun. That this has been going on. They're just able to do it in it's like a Las Vegas. It's like Las Vegas now. With the amount of showmanship and the amount of spectacle that they're able to confound you with. But it's, it's something that humankind has always done with media and culture,
What the irony that struck me, like between the eyes, with another Adam Curtis documentary, which was all watched over by machines of loving kindness. Did you ever see that
I
one?
think we missed that
I
one.
haven't seen
Yeah.
that one.
Oh, you guys, okay. Because it's really talking about what we're talking about now, which is computers, machines, people melding with them. And what was so fascinating about that documentary is he showed how the whole fallout from the counterculture movement actually is what fomented like Silicon Valley and then the whole computer
Yeah.
thing because of these, again, statistics, logarithms, you know, and this false belief that the hippies had that that nature is all you know, it's all unified, it's all in balance, it's all and then he really shows in the documentary talking to naturalists and stuff that actually nature isn't that way. It's quite rogue
Hmm.
with unpredictable shifts and jumps and moves and so but it's a great documentary just to see how that
Mm.
uh, you know, vision from the counterculture, the eruption of the pagan back into group mind got co-opted by science and technology.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll send you guys a link to
Yeah.
that. You know,
Yeah.
it opens with Ayn Rand, and you're just like, it's right down the rabbit hole from there. Like, it's just killer. One of his best.
Yeah, I
We'll
read
definitely
yeah, I
check it out.
remember I read about it, but I don't think we got around to it yet.
He's great,
you'll-
so I know we'll love
Yeah,
it.
everything
Love
I've
him.
heard is
Yeah.
yeah, he's phenomenal.
He is phenomenal. Ugh,
Yeah.
so creepy.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that, you know, the first moment that we need to have is like it's that Al Capone moment, that Geraldo Rivera moment, that Maze Way resynthesis moment, you know, Rachel realizing that all of her memories are synthetic in Blade Runner, you know, where, you know, you maybe like have an identity crisis, where you question like, what, like, do I actually believe this shit? Like, do I actually want to put an egg in my fucking Betty Crocker mix?
Right, right.
You know, like I maybe I don't want to do
I
that.
want to get in the metaverse? Like,
Yeah, do I
Isn't-
really want this?
but
So
isn't it odd that just as we're starting to kind of slip free from this, that something like that emerges?
yeah,
Okay, this is now go into this, you know, which is completely, you know, devoid of reality.
yeah.
Nobody wants that. It's so dumb. I mean, that's honestly the
But
truth.
that's like you and me, us saying that. I don't know.
I think I mean, they've had the Oculus. I could be completely wrong, and if I am, like, I encourage anybody to write in and inform and correct me. But the Oculus Rift has been on the market for over 5 years now, and
I think closer to 10.
yeah, and I think they've only sold like 10 million units. It's just
Up
it's
from that now.
what
It's higher than that
it's
now.
yeah, but it's still in
Not what they
terms of, like,
want. No.
yeah, in terms of like how widespread, you know, tablets and iPhones and laptops are, it's so infinitesimal that it doesn't. There was when you remember the Google Glass, you put the
Yeah. Oh my God, how is ragging on that? Yeah.
yeah, and there was a study done that showed that there's actually this limit to which we are comfortable with technology invading our bodies.
Exactly.
It's just sometimes it just gets like it's too close for comfort.
Well, the Oculus, I mean, it's absolutely depersonalizing.
Mhm.
Like in that article in the New York magazine, it opens with this guy with it on, and his kid walks in the room and goes, Jesus Christ, you look like that leopard we saw in India that had its head stuck in a pot. It's like, God, that just nails it. Leave it to a kid, like, you know.
Yeah.
Leave it to a kid.
Yeah.
Exactly. Children are still connected to their interior world and a deeper wisdom a lot of the time, which is
Right.
the moral of The Emperor's New Clothes, one of my favorite stories of all time.
The best.
And what I love about Hans Christian Andersen's story is that he doesn't just comment on how the group mind works and how frail human psychology is in terms of conformity. He also gives you the remedy. He makes it funny, and then he gives you the remedy for that condition, which is listen to children, and also remember the inner child that you are, and you still have
right.
that voice it's strident, impetuous, and honest, like, and I think that that's one of the greatest remedies for all of these conditions, because that doesn't sound fun. I don't think the inner child really wants to play in virtual reality. It's not fun. There's also just physical things involved. Like, it would give me a headache. I know it. I've never put
Oh,
one.
totally.
There's
But
people.
see, we're back to Leo again, because the kid, the child,
The child,
you know,
yeah,
is
exactly.
sort of
It's
a
essential.
counterpoint, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
drawing that, like like once you realize you don't want to put the egg in the cake mix, like it
Yeah.
draws some center of individuality back and reminds you,
Exactly.
you know, maybe I just want to follow my grandma's recipe because that was fun when I was a kid.
Right.
You know?
The metaverse is like the emperor's magic clothes.
Yeah.
Like, he thinks it's a great idea because he's this vainglorious fool, and he wants to waste all of this money and all this time on this nonsense, and everyone around him supports it. Because
I want to write the sequel to The Emperor's New Clothes, where they start a religious movement of where there's the one guy who says maybe the emperor's clothes was a symbol
Oh my
for
God,
the
you could
human
get, like,
potential.
George Santos could come in and do a whole,
Yeah,
like that and spin it.
yeah.
yeah.
I think, is this a good spot for us to
This
close?
is great. This
Yeah.
is great. This is great. Yeah, I think,
This
yeah,
was a great episode. I hope
Yeah.
the
We discovered
viewers
what the rage
dug
of
it.
Aquarius actually
yeah,
means.
the rage of Aquarius is when you realize all of your memories are implanted and you it's
You're a
it's
replicant.
yeah, and that you're a replicant. It's that I want more life, father moment, you know?
Oh,
Right.
one of my favorite
Yeah,
movies.
yeah. So that's the rage of Aquarius,
Right
and
on,
the antidote is the Emperor's New Clothes, to cultivate,
Yes.
to just say they're not wearing any clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Metaverse is dumb.
Yeah.
It's
All
Get out
right.
your John Bradshaw books and read about the inner child.
Yes. All
All
right.
right, guys. Hey, it was good seeing everybody out there that's watching. Please, I'm going to say it, even though it drives me crazy every time I see it in the video. Please subscribe and click the little bell.
Like, share,
Logo
and
with that.
subscribe.
What is it?
Like, share, and subscribe.
Okay, like, share,
And subscribe.
subscribe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's that's the mantra of the metaverse.
yes, and keep
Yeah.
your eggs out of the powdered mix.
Yeah. All right.
All right, you guys.
Have a beautiful day.
See you later.
Bye.